Hello everybody, it is me, Everyone's Confused. And today we're here talking about ReZero Starting Life in Another World, Season 2, Episode 7. Okay, so, just from last week, we saw how Subaru was trying to get information out of Elsa, but then Elsa didn't say anything, so he tried to run right before, Return by Death to see if he could save Rem, or if he could get hit before her. But then Beatrice ends up saving him. He opens up the door to Rem's room, ends up with her. And then the starting of this episode, he's just slamming on the door, and you just see blood just gushing. And man, his arm, Subaru's, what was it, his right arm or something like that? One of his arms was just completely just red. It was soaked, and it was kind of bulgy, like it was a lot bigger than it's supposed to be, probably because of all the swelling that's going on. And then he's just banging on it, trying to get out and trying to. I'm assuming that since he was just banging on it, he was probably also fiddling with the door. And Beatrice was using her magic to make it so that he couldn't leave. And then right before he's asking why she saved him and was asking why he wasn't able to open up the door, she's just well, she's already dead. And he's just wait, what? Rem is already dead. So then I guess there was time for him to go back, but then she wasn't letting him. And then we also found out the reason for why all the doors were open in the last episode. I think the episode before that, where when he was walking through the mansion, all the doors were open. And then we found out at the ending, not this episode because I only watched the first 9 minutes, but at one point right before he returns by death and goes back to another playthrough of him after the first trial, Elsa just goes in and gives him one gut punch, and then he just ends up in normally. So then he is trying to get the reasons out of Beatrice about why she would save him, and then she said that she did it just cause, and that she had no reason to do it. And he's just well, you don't even like me. It's the same thing with Subaru talking to Rosewald, where he's just you don't even like me, you don't care for me, so why do you trust me so much? And then he's just because I do. And then Beatrice is just I saved you because I just did it. There's no reason for it. And then we find out that Beatrice has a gospel sort of belt. I guess he has a witch cultist gospel. She has a witch cultist gospel. And then Subaru's why do you have that? That just looks like the way that it looks. It isn't an actual real thing. And then she doesn't, and he's just well, you aren't denying it. And then she apparently she just has her own, and she can read it and stuff like that. So I don't know if she's an actual member, or if she's because it doesn't make sense, because isn't it when Rem and Ram's village got destroyed, Rosewald saved them when the witch cultists attacked, and then somehow the witch cultists didn't get them in time because somehow Rosewald was there and saved them? So Rosewald could maybe be one of them, maybe. And we saw how Subaru ends up questioning Beatrice again. Then Beatrice looks into her gospel, not Bible, and then he's asking her he asks her what she can read, because only she can read it, and he's asking her what she sees, and then he ends up coming to this conclusion that the only reason why she saved him is because the gospel told her to save him. And then she's yes, that's definitely the reason. Then she gets mad at him, points at him, and says that she doesn't care for him, and that she doesn't like him, and that she's only doing what the book says. And it's wow, she's only doing it the book says. She also ends up saying how she's also only doing it because of her mother. Now I don't know if her mother is just some random person, or maybe her mother could be, the witch. It's the Witch of Envy, right? That's the one that gave Subaru Return by Death, if I'm remembering correctly. If I'm remembering wrong, you can tell me in the comments below. And then she just keeps on hugging the book, and then he tries to walk towards her, and I don't know if he was trying to get her to kill him, because he did try to do it by knocking over her tea and then using it to try to kill himself, but then she ended up saving him again. The first time was from the book, and I don't know if this time also was said in the book if he would do it again. And he even also mentions all of the time, all of his past Return by Death, and him interacting with Beatrice, and she almost kind of insinuates that she remembers all of those tries, unless she doesn't. And like I said, Elsa comes in and then gives Subaru the final blow. And then she also tried to get Beatrice first, but then Subaru grabbed onto her leg and said, don't do this. But then she ended up getting him, and then right before he closed his eyes, he was looking at Beatrice's worried face. And then Subaru ends up going back through to Return by Death, waking up at the first trial, saving Amelia. And then we ended up having a moment where he's doing everything his first run through, when he first done the trial, and when he interacted with people, he's trying to do it he's trying to do the day the same way as it was the first time and not the second time. So in his third try, he's trying to do it the same as the first try, and he's acting so confident, and he has a plan that he's trying to go through to do things perfectly. So then Otto has a conversation with him, and it's Natsuki, you're acting really calm, you're acting so unnerving that it's kind of weird. And then he's no, I don't think that's the thing. Isn't me being calm good? And he's well, no, you being calm is concerning. And I guess it is, right? Because I guess like he's like acting because he's like, why aren't you worrying about Amelia more than you should be? And he's like, well, isn't being calm a good thing? And then like somehow a new change of event occurs where I already forgot his name, Garfield comes out of nowhere and says, hey, I want to talk to you. And then he's just like, wait, this is different. And then now they're just walking through a forest right now at the 9-minute mark, and then we'll see why he wants to talk to him and stuff like that. We even saw a moment where when he was in the conversation with the pink-haired lolly elf chick, she like looked at him kind of weirdly with her eyes, and I don't know if that's like just a random scene or if that's like her like also leaning on to why Subaru was acting kind of weird. So I guess we'll see what happens in the next few minutes. But yeah, the starting this episode is pretty good. I can't wait to see what happens next. I'll be back in a few seconds. Okay, I'm back after watching around the 9-minute mark till the 17-minute mark, and wow, I was not expecting that. I was not expecting him talking to them, because I think the first time that he mentioned him passing the trial, he was with everyone else. Like he was with Amelia, and he was also with Ram and Otto, but now he only did it alone with Garfield, and now I now just remember the pink-haired lolly's name, Ryuzu. Now he only did it alone with them, and wow, they literally she's just like, wow, they both just said, wow, you're able to take the trial, just like the reactions from before. But then she's like quiet, and then Subaru's like, well, you're thinking this, or you're thinking that things just got complicated. She says, well, you just took that out of my mouth. And then she's like, well, don't blame me for this. And then Garfield just goes out of nowhere, chokes out Subaru. I almost thought that he was going to get returned by death, but no. They expected the unexpected and instead just made him go unconscious. They then took him back to the ruins, hid him somewhere, either in the ruins or in a different sanctuary place. Because if he was in the ruins, I think maybe Ekidono would talk to him, maybe, possibly. Or they just hid him in some secret base somewhere and then just left him there tied up with like a gag on his mouth and like something over his, and like a thing over his eyes, and just left him there. And then when he ended up waking up, like he's like, why are you doing this? And he's like yelling for help. And he's Garfield's just like, well, no one will hear you here. We need to do this because you have the scent on you. And then Seaver's like, wait, you can smell the witch's scent on me? And he's just like, yeah, but we don't call it the scent. We call it the miasma. So then just like Rem was able to do, because I'm pretty sure, I don't know, wouldn't Ram be able to do it? Because Rem was able to like just see it. Like she could like literally just see the particles coming off him. But then now, because of how many times he's returned by death, like I wonder if they sensed it beforehand. And I wonder if it was just Garfield that was able to like catch the scent, or if it was also Ryuzu that also caught it, and that's why they're like so against him. Even though that like if Subaru like told them the information that Roswald has about how Roswald was controlling the witch cults in the first season with everything that happened there, wouldn't they also get mad at him too? Because like he also said like that Subaru's eyes looked like Rosewald's, and I assuming that is because like the life in it, because I know that in the second run last episode when Subaru was talking to Roswald was like very quiet and very docile, and his like eyes had like a shine in it. And I guess since Subaru has a shine in it, they're just like, oh, you guys are the same, and I guess some are kind of the same in some ways. Garfield told Subaru like right before Subaru left, he's just like, I'm not going to kill you because we need to get information out of you, and that the only way for you to get out of this is for us to get for Amelia to decide whether or not to like keep you or not. And then they just end up, he leaves, and like I think Subaru also tried to like bite his mouth before he left, but then Garfield said, no, you don't, and then gagged him, I guess, before he was able to do it. So that's pretty interesting to see right there. I'm assuming that he might return by death, but if things go smoothly without that, that would be interesting. Back when he was at the forest, back when he was about to get unconscious by the chokehold that Garfield was doing, he ended up walking with Garfield for a long time, Subaru and him, and then they ended up in an open field where Ryuzu was at, and then Subaru, I think before he saw Ryuzu, was getting very worried. He's like, why is this guy taking me out here so far? Like, this is kind of weird. But then he ended up meeting her, and then he even, like, he said what he said before in last episode, where he also said how he wants to undergo the trial, and he doesn't want Amelia to do it. Now, I'm assuming that the compromise that might happen, unless Subaru, like, just tries to go through the trial again, is that they'll try to do it both together, non-stop, maybe, or maybe like something's gonna happen. I don't know if like this is only the 7th episode. I don't know if this is only going to 13 episodes or 12 episodes, or if it's gonna be longer. But it'd be interesting to see where the rest of this goes. But that was what's happening in the middle parts of this episode. It's pretty interesting, and I can't wait to see what happens next. It's getting very exciting with that, especially with Garfield being able to like smell the witch cult, and then like them having this scene going on right now to see what happens. Because right now, right before the 17-minute mark, they're all the villagers and like everyone is searching for Subaru. Even Amelia is worried because like he didn't come back, and only Garfield and Ryuzu know. So we'll definitely see where this goes. But yeah, I'll be back in a few seconds to review the last bits of this episode. All right, so I'm back after watching the ending of this episode. Man, damn, that ending. Just like before, when I got to the ending of the 17-minute mark, or maybe like in the middle of it, damn, we just saw like Garfield come back to the place when Subaru escaped, and he's like mad. He's like super pissed off that he escaped, and then he like smacked his hand against the wall at the door, and then you see him turn into his beast transformation, and that thing was beefy. Like that was a huge arm. I wonder what his beast transformation looks like, because it definitely doesn't look. It definitely, maybe it does, because when I remember, if I imagine like a giant. Like, it's probably not as skinny as Federica's. It's probably a lot beefier. I wonder how beefy it was, because that arm was huge. And I wonder if he's going to be like a standing one, like if he's going to be like a sort of like the Beastman from like the first season, like that one wolf guy. I wonder if he's going to be as like standing on both feet, or if he's going to be on all fours. He's probably going to be standing on 2 feet based on his transformation, but maybe he might be on all 2 fours. So then we saw Subaru just lying there, like trying to like get out of his restraints. We also saw the search party at the 17-minute mark, where since Amelia didn't have Subaru anymore, and like we heard from Otto that she was like having a very difficult time, because the only person that she trusts out of everyone there would be maybe Ram to an extent, and then Roswald is like also maybe, but he like fully trusts Subaru like completely. So then having like, she tried to like call out Puck, but since Puck isn't there, she only had Subaru, so then she's having difficulty. She even tried like the trial, like just like in the first go around, where she like kept on failing, like she just can't deal with her past and keeps on having trouble with it. So then she wanted to try it again, but then she declined it. She said she's now saying that she wants to get Subaru back before she even tries anything. And then back at Subaru at the cell that he was at, he kept on like trying to break out of it, then he said that it was too tight and that he couldn't do it. He barely could take off his mouth guard. And they gave him I don't know if they gave him like more than one spoonful, but they gave him one spoonful to feed him, just one like porridge. That after like he kept on like struggling, and then he like started to bang his head to like hurt himself to like get him to return by death, but it didn't work. Like I'm pretty sure that if he actually put in the effort to like keep on whacking his head, he probably could have done it, and then he could have like done like return by death by blood loss. But then he ended up giving up, and then he ended up getting revigorated after he got fed, because he started to remember all of his past deaths, and he's like struggling because he doesn't want to deal with like that much like death again, and he's like struggling, and then he ended up getting just his eye cover off to like know where he is again. And then he ended up looking around, and he ended up seeing Otto came out of nowhere, and then said that 3 days have passed, and then with information of like him sneaking around and trying to like get away from Garfield, because Garfield knew that Otto knew where Subaru was, because the last time that he saw Subaru, he was with Garfield, and they went over somewhere. So then we even saw a point where Garfield at that moment tried to pay Otto off, and then Otto at first was happy, but then he was like cautiously happy. So I guess he took the jewel, but then he lied about not saying anything or doing anything, even though that he got the gem. Or maybe he actually did decline it, because Subaru did ask if he declined it or not, so I'm wondering if he did. And then we saw how they had a conversation about what was going on and stuff like that, and then Amelia's still doing the trial, and that talking to, I think the Mangrave is either Roswald or Ryuzu, and then they got Amelia to keep on doing the trial by like doing like an oath saying that after the trials are over and after she completes it, then they'll save Subaru somehow and get like a huge search party going on, which was pretty funny. At a point where Subaru was like questioning Otto, saying like why he would save him, and that why he wouldn't take the jewel, and that why he would do all this, even though that they're like same thing of like earlier, like why would he do this stuff if Otto was just some random dude. And then Otto says, no, I did all this because I consider us friends. And we saw a funny moment between the two of them, which is pretty funny seeing those funny moments. But then Subaru ends up saying, what, you think that we're friends? And then he's like, yeah, and I don't really like the way you treat me, but I think that that's just the way the friends are. And then Subaru just ends up laughing really loudly, and I was like, how did the guard not hear him? Because I know that like Otto mentioned a guard, but he was just laughing, and he started tear laughing just from like them being friends. I guess that is really hard for him to expect, because I would say that the only friends that he had was just Rem and Amelia and Puck. And then I don't think he considers Ram and Oswald friends. Maybe just a little bit, like 50-50 or less. Maybe 50-50 with Ram, because Ram is kind of okay, even though that she could be very unpredictable at times. And then we have the episode ending with like them escaping, and then apparently he's going to leave the sanctuary again to go to the mansion, and apparently Ram's gonna help him, which was based on Garfield likes Ram, and then seeing when Garfield sees that Ram and Otto are helping Subaru, he's gonna get pretty pissed off. You know that he's at his beast transformation, so we'll see if he returns by death or not next episode. But yeah, this was a pretty good episode. I really enjoyed it. The return by death was cool, and seeing everything that's going on, definitely a different go around that you wouldn't expect, and that's kind of cool to see. So yeah, I really enjoyed this episode. If you enjoyed my thoughts and opinions on this, leave a like. If you didn't enjoy this whatsoever, then leave a dislike, and yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video next week, and I hope it's a good one. And yeah, bye, have a great rest of your day, and see you later.